All right, Amy, we are back. And do you want to tell everybody what our podcast is all about and also introduce yourself?
I'm Amy. I'm Derek's little sister. And our podcast is about making a time capsule for our kids on questions we think that they might want to know in case for some reason we're unable to answer them in the future.
Yes.
Our kids being under speaking age right now, so they can ask us now even if they wanted to.
That's right. My name is Derek. I'm her big brother, and we'll jump right into it. So I'll ask you, the question is, when you think about the love that you have for your son, do you go, is the thought process about the love that your parents have for you, is it, oh, like, wow, like, my mom loves me as much as I love my son. My dad loves me as much, or maybe they love me more, or maybe they love me less. What's your perspective on like how much they love you in comparison to how much you know you love your son?
Ooh. I guess it's not really. I guess being on the receiving end and on the giving end is like two separate things. So like on the receiving end, I feel like there's certain times when mom or like my dad are not as affectionate, so then it doesn't feel as loving. So sometimes I'm like, okay, well, do you really care about me? Like
And
especially
when
like
you say affection, you mean physical affection?
physical affection, or even just like any of the I do feel like, mom tends to be affectionate type of person. But yeah, like, and especially like the way that I feel affection, maybe they don't always make me feel affectionate in the way that makes me feel more loved. So I feel like I try to love my son like outwardly and like vocally and like, say things. But so if we're thinking about like in comparison that way, I feel like I show more love to Kalel than they show to me. But do I think that in physical measurement, if we could weigh the love out, it's more? Maybe not. I don't know. I would think it was the same. I would assume it was the same. Do I think that like, I don't think mom or my dad ever unintentionally do things, or you'd ever intentionally do things to make me not feel loved. So I'm like, and I don't feel like I do things to make Kalel feel unloved, and I don't think in the future I will ever intentionally do that. But will it accidentally happen? Possibly.
Then, so in the past, I believe you have said your love language would be acts of service. I could see your dad being like, probably that's his, and he also that's the way he shows love the most. Mom, similar acts of service, probably quality time, probably her top two. So then when you're talking about it, so I guess one thought I've been having is, does my love language switch based on maybe who the person is? The dialect absolutely switches, right? So like if we're talking about the love language of kiss on the lips, hey, that's my wife, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, I don't do that with anybody else. Now, when it comes to your parents, so maybe I'll ask you that question first, is do you find that your love language changes, and do you feel like your love language changes based on who you're interacting with and connecting with, like with your family?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure my love language changes depending on who I'm interacting with. And I do think that it plays a big part on like how somebody perceives like love, how somebody feels love. And I've always said that like the best way to actually show your love for somebody is to understand what their love language is, and to try to do, try to make them feel loved the most by doing, whether it is acts of service, quality time, all of the other things. Words of affirmation. So like Erilyn. So our niece, Erilyn, she's not real like touchy, touchy-feely. She doesn't like hugs that much. She's not really like like super needy as far as that goes, but she does like quality time. And the quality time doesn't necessarily have to be us sitting down constantly, like having a conversation, doing things. But, the way that she feels loved is by just taking time out of your day to spend with her, even if you're not having a conversation, even if you're just there, So it's like what a car ride, or let's say like me taking her to work, or me like picking her up from school and taking her somewhere, doing these things. We aren't like getting super deep in a conversation, but we are, spending this time together. And like, at the end of the car ride, it's like, oh, bye, love you, stuff like that. But it will look drastically different than like, a conversation that I'm having constantly with my mom or with, my nieces. Like me, Shanice, and Christiana, we call each other and we're talking to each other, and we're constantly like gossiping and talking about our lives and talking about our significant others and talking about our relationship with, their mom and my sister and my mom and their grandma and, like all these things. And we're constantly going after things, but I think it definitely, depending on who you're talking to, it switches. And even like my dad, like since he is more acts of service, I don't get into like deep conversations with him either. It's more like stay on the surface and do nice things for him too.
Gotcha. Then it seemed that you had a margin between maybe what you would prefer, the love that they showed to you, and then the love that they actually show. And is that what you went on to describe was words, but you said a physical affection as well?
Physical affection, like
hugs and kiss on the cheeks or whatever.
Hugs and kiss on the cheeks or whatever.
Or walk up to you, put their arm around you or whatever.
Yeah, even just stuff like that. Like I do know, like different people like that too. You know what I mean? Let's see.
But I'm asking for you. I'm saying it seemed that when you were trying to wrestle with the question of the love you have and show to your son, Kalel, and then the love that you maybe in some ways there's a gap between maybe the maximum love that you could feel and then the actual love that you feel. So if they were to, I guess what I'm digging into is if they were to fill that gap, it would be,
physical. Oh no, I think it would be more. I know that this is gonna sound like superficial, but I think it would be like gifts that were more thoughtful rather than like monetary. Does that make sense? Like if I feel like it's the main reason that I feel a lack of affection or a lack of love from my parents is because I feel like they don't pay attention to me. Like not pay attention, but like they don't pay attention to specific things that, that I'm interested in or that bother me. So it's like, they end up doing things over and over again that like I'm uninterested in or that bother me. And then I'm like, oh, like if they, gave me something or did something that showed like, hey, even though you didn't think so, I was paying attention and I noticed you liked this, then I think that would make a difference. But, do I think it really matters? No. Do I think it makes them not love me? No. But I think that they're just not, especially mom, like she's not real, like, pay attention. Like, she's not real, like, observant, detail oriented with stuff like that. And she's never been like that. So I think that's, and it's not like, I completely understand that. And it's not like I'm missing something from my life or I've been neglected or all these things. Like, no, like she's gone out of her way to always make sure that I've had everything that I want. But yeah, I think that would just be like the above and beyond.
And then, so is it you observing? So I think this is fascinating. So is it that you observe other moms do this other thing? Is it so let that question sit. And then if the answer is yes, in what context do you observe these other moms?
I honestly, I'm not sure that I do. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I know that I've had friends who, like, their moms...
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah, like, I've had friends who their moms kind of pay attention and are like, oh, I know you really wanted this purse, so I got it for you. Or, like, I know you've been really wanting, like, whatever. So it's like, I paid attention and I got this for you or whatever. It was mainly just like my friends. I would say Diamond's more like that, like our sister's more like that, but
Yeah.
I don't know if she's real vocal too. She makes sure to ask them, like, is this what you want? Are you sure this, like, is this what you want? She like asks about it. She's not more like a gifts person, but I do think
Right.
even the asking, like, hey, I noticed you wanted this. Do you want this? Do you want me to do this for you? I think that even just makes a difference than like just never wanting to do the wrong thing, so doing nothing.
Then do you think that there's a parallel that you might feel with your son's love toward you, as far as, so like, let's say he fulfilled the same kinds of love that your mom and dad fulfill for you, but did not fulfill this area of gifts that you're thinking about right now, then would that be a challenge or a situation that you'd go, like, these things are good over here, but like this other area is kind of missing?
I feel like I can live without it. Like, it's not do or die, I mean, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really bother me.
No, it doesn't really bother me. I've only been talking about it for the last 5 minutes.
Straight. But yeah, I do think it's like lack of communication too. Like
So I'm trying to. So I'm gonna let you finish. Like communication. I do want to say this. I find it fascinating. So I'm trying to brainstorm what kind of gift I could even come up with, having talked to you for an hour and a half every week for the first 10 months of the year. And I'm going like, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to even imagine. Like, I'm sure I asked you at one point about music, and you told me something, maybe some indie artist or something. I'm like, is that like a San Antonio artist? I get their CD and bring it to you or something. And even like the way gifts are shifted today, it's not like you don't buy the people DVDs or music for the most part. I guess somebody, if they have a record player, vinyl's kind of made a comeback in a little, in some context. Anyway, go ahead. You said communication. Or you can respond to me, or you can you finish your thought on communication.
No, I think it's lack of communication. Like, I need to verbalize. Like, if that's what I want, I need to make sure that it's verbally out there. Like, hey, I'd like you to pay attention and get me gifts based off of things that I want in my day-to-day,
Right. I hear what you're saying, but I guess as somebody who speaks to you on a regular basis and tries to be actively listening, and I'll listen to the playback as well, I'm going, I would have no idea. Like, like what does she like categorically? Like,
Yeah.
So for men, is there a sports team they like? Is there a hobby or an activity, like say somebody who likes to go to the shooting range, the gun, bullets, different things there. So what gift would you give yourself if you were a family member to yourself and you go, oh, you know what, she really likes this?
Something I really need right now is one of those phone holders
For your car?
for my car.
Oh, that's super easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because, like, people will be like, oh, like, because, like I said, I FaceTime with Christiana and Janice all the time. So, or, like, even Mom. I FaceTime with Mom all the time. I FaceTime with Jeremy all the time. And, like, I drive a lot. So, a lot of the times I just put the phone in the cup holder.
Yeah.
And they stare at Kalel. They're like, oh, you should have one of those little phone things. And I'm like, yeah, I should. I should. I'm probably going to get one.
Do you think you'll get like
one of these days?
Maybe you get like 3 now. So if you get 3 of them next week, would you feel like, like what do you do with the extra ones? And do you tell the people who came in second and third if you got 3?
No, I just probably put them in different places that I drive in.
Yeah. Okay.
Or keep them as backups because sometimes they fall and break, or like, sometimes the sun melts them.
And I could see you as being somebody who would do that gift thing that you're describing, especially like to your son, especially, or different things.
Yeah.
Which it's such a niche strength of a person. You kind of described, like, there's the trope, there's the crafty mom trope that I could see you like not growing into, but living into, especially as a mom. And even Dime has some of those traits where she's like helping to make the mums or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or shirts and all these things. So I could see you being connected in that way.
Yeah.
But it's super niche from the majority of people that we know, and like being able to flex that muscle like that.
Yeah. It is funny. But yeah.
Got it. Okay, so then your answer was so the other part of the question was, now when you imagine how they were with you as a baby, as Kalel, do you imagine they were as loving as you are to your son?
I definitely feel like they are way super loving with Kalal. Like,
No. If they were as loving to you as you were to Kalel. Like, in other words,
no. That's what I'm saying. I think they're like, I think the way that they love Kalal is off the charts compared to the way that they loved me. And not even just...
Their love for you when you were a baby
Yeah.
and how they loved you
Yeah.
compared to how you love Kalel.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe you were getting to it. Maybe I keep cutting you off too
No,
early.
no.
Okay.
Definitely, you're right. You're right.
Because we, for
I
the
feel
most
like
part,
it's so
unless
much easier. I feel like it's so much easier for them to love Kalel more. Not like love Kalel more than I do, but like be the fun guy with Kalel more than I am, because I'm with Kalel 24/7. Well, not 24/7, right? Because we do this for a couple hours every. So like the majority of the time I'm with Kalel, so like I have to stop him from doing things that he thinks are fun, or I have to be the disciplinarian. You know, I have to tell him no. I have to take him away when he's about to do something bad, and he screams and yells and kicks it. You know, when he doesn't want to do something. So I feel like I'm the bad guy more often to Kalel than like they are to Kalel. Like they literally will let Kalel do whatever he wants, you know, barring not detrimental to his life. But, you know, for the most part, they don't discipline him at all. So does that... do I discipline him because I hate him, though? No. I discipline him because I love him.
Sure.
Because I want him to be a good person. But do I feel like he feels like so awesome and so great when they're around because he's going to get to do whatever he wants? Yes. I think he thinks I'm more of a comfort and they're more of a good time.
Okay, yes. I think we're still on different pages.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, let me try to get us back. Okay, so you know how affectionate you are with Kalel. You know the hugs or kisses. You know about the words of affirmation, whether you know you're calling him different nouns, like he's the prince or lion or beast or strong, whatever. And then you have adjectives: strong, handsome, all these other things. You know all of these ways that you are with him. What I'm asking is, do you think your parents with you when you were a baby, were they as loving as when you just imagine them? Do you imagine they were as loving with you as you are with him?
I don't think so. And let me just say, like, it's not because I think that they were, you know, bad or whatever. But I was the last one of 5 siblings. So it was like and you know, me and Pops are close in age. I don't think that they had as much one-on-one time with me as I do with Kalel, as Jeremy does with Kalel, as, you know, they do with Kalel. So I also didn't have as much one-on-one time with my grandparents or with, you know, anybody really. I had a lot more one-on-one time with my siblings than I did, I believe, with my parents. So I think that's probably the difference. Like, having already had so many other siblings, and like not even just that my siblings were like, we're all under 5 years old or we're all under 10 years old. Like, a lot of y'all were older. So it's like, that was like the parental figures wasn't just, you know, between me and my mom or me and my dad, or, you know, it was between all of y'all all the time. You know, you're, even as a, you know, 12, I think Jared and I are probably, obviously Pops is a year and a half older than me, and then it's Jared, and I think that gap is like 12 years. So even Jared was 12 years old by the time I was born, still knows more than me as a little one. Like, if he sees me going to fall over, he's going to catch me. If he sees, you know, all these other things, he's going to stop me. Or even you, like, you were a couple years older than Jared, so then that means you were 14, 15 years old when I was born. So it's like that. Also, you're going to see me doing something, you're going to be like, don't eat that
Marble.
Marble. Don't eat, whatever off the ground. Like you're going to stop me. And I think there's nobody like that for Kalel other than like myself. So I think, or even just to play with. Like I played with all of you guys, hung out with all of you guys. So I think there's no one else for Kalel to play with because one, all the babies being born are now smaller than him. And two, all the adults play with him.
Okay. So you're talking about quantity of time one-on-one. Now, what about quality? So what about verbally affectionate and physically affectionate? Again, this is just imagination. When you're imagining how they were with you in comparison to how you for sure are with Kalel.
I imagine that I still think not as much.
Just in your imagination, so not. Okay.
No.
Interesting.
Because, lack of time. Or not lack of time, but there's so many other kids to divide your time against.
Right, but I qualified the statement as in
quantity,
quality.
Quality.
So you're saying quantity impossible with the number of responsibilities and other kids and other things that were being done, but quality in the sense of when they were with you, how was that? Like again, this is just imagination still.
Yeah, because Kalel's not that old, and if I was that age, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so quantity.
Quality.
I feel like it was probably good too. I think they were affectionate.
As affectionate as
No,
you?
not as affectionate as me. I do feel like, I don't know. I guess I can't really tell.
Because if you think about this from 20 years or 25 years from now, maybe Kalel, he has his son or whatever or his daughter, and he's super affectionate, and then maybe the question will come back to him is, I wonder if my mom was as affectionate as I am with my son, right? And so the question I'm even thinking for myself is this idea of, do I think my mom loves me as much as I love my son? And for me, there's no doubt, absolutely yes. Now, on my dad's side, even though he was there for 2 years before my mom, our mom and my dad, got divorced when I was around 2, then the question was, for me, I'm curious, and Mom and I haven't even had a chance to talk about this yet, which is like, how was my dad, even in those first 2 years that he was actually in the house as a dad? Like, and I'm curious if he loved me. If did he change my diapers? A question I just don't know. You know what I'm saying? I change my son's diapers all the time. Did he? Did I go to sleep on his chest again? If my son has been fed and he's been changed and then he's still struggling to go to sleep at night, I'm like, all right, and it seems like he's struggling on his back. Okay, cool. I'll sleep on my chest. Again, is a special affectionate moment I have with my son that, of course, I want my son to know about. If he ever looks back and wonders the same question, like, how much did my dad actually love me? And I'm like, if you could know, like there's so much love. I try to say it in other episodes, but like there's this, it's so difficult to quantify. But so for me, when I look back, I was like, I try to have the humble perspective, which is I can't possibly have more love for my son than my dad had for me. Like, I think I'm that much better than my dad. But I think I could have had better examples, better role models, better friends, better influences around me that have helped me to, in some ways, be better. But it just makes me wonder. Like, you just wonder, like, how much did he love me the same?
Yeah.
Or would he, if he was here, say, no, actually, I didn't even know how to do that. I didn't know to do that. I didn't know the sacrifice. Even like when I think about the divorce happening or whatever, I think about that sacrifice. There was a sacrifice to not go that route, and I want to think that I'm better in the sense that I would like to think, I'm not saying this is for sure, but I would avoid a divorce if it meant being able to live with my kids.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'm better because, again, there's so many circumstances and situations that make every situation different. So, but I do think it's an absolute certainty with my mom. Not that I remember, but I think I have enough of a sample size of other things that she's done throughout my life to go, she had to have loved me as much as I love my son.
Yeah.
But what there's a question mark on dad is at this point in time, my first few months of life, first few weeks of life, and then which leads in the first few months and in the first couple of years before he was out of the house, did he love me as much as I love my son? That's a very questionable question mark
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or questions about that?
I do. If we're talking quantity, I think that definitely they loved me as much as I love my son.
Okay, wait. So that changed.
Quantity, not quality.
Okay, but earlier you were.
Well, I'm saying like if we're talking physically, how much love was shown, I don't think that they did it as much as I do for my son, or like that they showed, that it was as palpable as it is like that I do. But do I think? But like how you said, like if you don't know to do something, does it mean that you don't love your child? No, I don't think so. So do I think that they, and especially like when it comes to mom, like do I think that mom purposely didn't do something, or that my dad purposely did do something, that wasn't correct? No, I don't think that. But I think they did definitely love me.
Yeah.
And I think that they loved me as much as I love my son. But did they show it as much as I love my son? And did they, spend as much time with me as I do my son? I don't think so. Does that make sense?
Okay. You're talking about. I think I hear what you're saying. So maybe their skill set of loving you might have been lacking, but their
volume.
I like that, because quantity. I keep thinking about time, but I think you're talking about something else. You're talking about
like the volume.
Like if they're a bottle and their bottle was completely full. Your bottle was completely full. Now you might have then the bottle doesn't have different arms or different like
different holes. Like let's say you turn it upside down and to pour it out. I think that I pour out more because I have more ways to love my son. I think that if they didn't have more ways to pour it out, it might have just
right. So and I think about that.
Out.
I think about that as well. Like again, did my dad even think of, hey, I want to give him nouns, or that I want to give possession on him, which was like, did he say like my son a whole lot? I should say that a whole lot. My son whom I love. Hey, my son whom I love, or handsome, or here's the prince, or again I tease my wife like, hey, we got to give this boy 36 kisses a day, and she's like, why 36? I'm like, well according to our tracker, which we discussed that after this, the tracker, when we're tracking how often he's eating and how often we change his diaper, he's up at least then every 2 hours. So then every 2 hours is 12 different times he's awake, which is three kisses every time he's awake. 3 times 12 equals 36, so 36 a day. Was like, again, my nerdy way of calculating how many kisses I want him to know about. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
So, I joke about stuff like that, but it's very real to me as far as like I want him to go, oh yeah, like. Again, you don't even know what they remember. Again, we don't remember stuff.
Yeah.
But like, but there is. I've heard ideas and thoughts of different like orphanages and like how kids really suffer and struggle and even like deteriorate without like appropriate affection.
Yeah, I've heard the more hugs you get in a day, the more your mental health is improved.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was a long question. Any other questions or thoughts on that one?
No.
All right, your turn. All right, I guess we'll go to our question here in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
You want to read that? I'll put it on screen.
Can y'all have opposing political ideology and openly, respectfully dialogue? Are there no-fly zones?
I did put the question inside of the live today, which was, what are questions you would ask your
sibling?
So what is your thoughts on this question? Opposing political ideologies and respectful dialogue, and are there no-fly zones with you and your siblings?
I don't think that. Are we talking about just on the pod? I feel like on the pod, there's some things we're just not going to talk about on the pod, especially like, my son's name or whatever, like even just dumb things like that. But as far as like politically or like ideology goes, I don't think I have a problem openly talking about anything.
With any of your siblings?
Yeah, with any of my siblings. Well, okay, do I want to avoid arguments? Yeah. If I can just avoid an argument, I will just not talk about something with somebody and I'll just let it go. But like if I'm in the mood to debate, then yeah, there's nothing I'm not willing to talk about. But I was thinking, my brain is just not like, it's so funny that we asked this question because I was just talking to Shanice the other day. I was on the phone with her and I was telling her I feel like Derek says things sometimes and I want to go against what he says, but my brain just is not as tactile, as like sharp as it is when I'm not pregnant. So then I just end up, I get tired and I just give up. I'm like, so right at this moment, I don't have like pushback, like, oh, we're gonna talk this out until one of us hops on board.
Pro-life or pro-choice? Bring it.
Because I just feel like my brain is just not all there right now. But I do feel like in about 6 months, 7 months, when I get my brain back together, I think we'll have a lot more open conversations where I will go against what you have to say more often. But yeah, for the most part, that's where my brain's at. I mean, what do you think? I think we can definitely have opposing political ideology.
Yeah. For the record, I don't know if I said this on the pod, but I think Amy will eventually become pro-life. She thinks she's pro-choice right now. She says she's both, which I think is stupid. But I feel like culture pulls me toward, like, I don't know what this is. So maybe this is the zeitgeist. You familiar with that phrase?
No.
Zeitgeist, fancy word, means like spirit of the times. It's kind of like if like most people are like in the world think this, or some people are pushing you toward one way. And I don't know how you feel like being like in culture, and like I can feel shifts because of TV shows or whatever. I'm like, oh, like weird. Like I could feel TV shows and movies are trying to make me feel like about homosexuality or whatever, or
with gay,
or with abortion, right?
Yeah.
Like I could feel sense this push toward this direction, and I'm probably a contrarian by nature, which I often, if I feel being pushed, hold on, why are you pushing me? Like, and then I find myself often on the opposite position of where I'm being tugged or pushed, or at least wanting the people who are pushing me to be objective about it, to give a great perspective for the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
So, pro-life, baby. Pro-life.
Are there no-fly zones? Do we have no-fly zones?
Let's see. No-fly zones. I mean, okay, like contextually, like so our era, Kamala Harris just did a podcast on the Call Her Daddy podcast. You familiar with this?
Oh yeah, I
one?
just saw a video of like a clip of it right before.
Right, and then like so
this morning.
There's all kinds of, so if you just had a little bit of a glimpse of what I've never listened to an episode of that podcast.
Me either.
But like there's like so this is all hearsay. But publicly known hearsay is that there's a raunchy sexual component to like talking about orgasms, sex toys, all of these things. I'm going like, so am I getting on any pod and going there in the conversation about like, no, like, so to me, is that a no-fly zone as far as like sexual? I think modesty is something like, and I think keeping the marital intimacy intimate and personal and private is important. It's like I have one chapter about sex in my book, but it's more like, what's the fancy phrase for
modest?
It's more conceptual in nature, about like, and it comes from like this idea that if the wife wants to be intimate, then they're intimate. If the husband wants to be intimate, then they're intimate. But I don't really share much about our personal whatever preferences or cadence or rhythm or frequency or anything like that. But the ideal is whenever somebody's on either side of the marriage has a desire to be intimate, then the best thing is to do that, as to see the desire as one desire, not as, oh, that's her desire, oh, that's his desire. No, it's our desire to fulfill. So that's the extent of that chapter. So I suppose, are there no-fly zones? I would say probably that on the pod, and probably individually similar as well.
Mm. That makes sense. I guess the no-fly zones for me, inside and outside of the pod, would be whatever I did to hurt all my friends all those years ago. You couldn't pry that information out of me.
But do you think after you have the baby and if you drink again, do you think so there's the, man, I've been saying this word a ton. There's the trope of somebody drinking and then being more open about certain things they wouldn't normally say, like secrets or things like that. So do you think if somebody who listened to the pod heard you say that, and all I gotta do is wait till she has the baby, buy her some drinks, and then ask questions about that situation? Or do you think you even inebriated?
I think even inebriated, those acts, my sins are locked down.
Even inebriated. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So now
It's like something that I've for so many years I've already kind of like pushed it down, and even like come up with other like scenarios so many times to where it's like really I don't think about anything hard enough to even have it continuously be memory. Does that make sense?
yeah, it's so naturally my brain wants to, okay, I know what you're willing to talk about in different. Naturally, the human brain goes, this has to be the worst thing somebody could possibly do. So clearly, Amy killed some of their kids. As she laughs in an evil way. I mean, I know, but more seriously, it is interesting when somebody positions themselves not willing to talk about something. You tend to imagine
the worst
case scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you take worst case scenario, maybe dial it back like 3 notches, then I'm right there.
Yeah.
But the notches, I mean, if you want to think it's like out of 10, 3 notches down to a 7. But if you think out of like 100, 3 notches and it's only 97, I think it could go either way.
And whatever you did, you were clearly busted for. So like, again,
clearly other people know about it somewhere out there.
Because I my brain automatically started categorizing, okay, what's the worst of the worst? Killing somebody's kids. The other thing was, okay, you roofied somebody and then like you walked away, but somebody saw you or got it on camera or something, and now like everybody knows, whatever. Like these are the worst of the worst situations. So if these are not them because it is the bottom worst, but you said 3 notches up. Anyway.
But yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So step 9 comes up once again in your alcoholic recovery. Would you say?
I thought it was line recovery.
Yeah, you're in both camps.
I never put myself in alcoholic recovery. Just saying that.
Okay. Any other no-fly zones?
Mm-mm.
Ooh, I do have a pro-life position that I could run by. I could run by you.
All right.
Okay. So
here we go.
On the pro-life side, I think there's an element, specifically, I think men who understand their own self-sacrifice is needed. So I think if we painted different scenarios, I think you actually heard a version of this from me before, but this is a little bit different. So men who understand sacrifice. So this is the Titanic. Who goes on the boats first? Is it just, oh yeah, we're all equal? So
no, women and children.
Women and children. Why? Okay, so we understand there's something noble that a man should do in a moment of crisis to be willing to sacrifice himself in the name of women and children. So
precisely.
If we were painting an equation, it would be maybe man, woman, and it's greater than, as in, if somebody had to be sacrificed, the man should be sacrificed first and keep the woman alive. If the woman and child need to be sacrificed, you keep the child alive. In my perspective, in the same idea.
Unless she can't have kids. Because then
you're saying if she can't have kids, you kill the child and keep the woman?
if she can't have kids and the man supports,
We're still talking about Titanic though, but keep going.
yeah, I think that
So you're saying
old ladies out. Out of the boats.
So you're saying if they've already passed the age.
Yeah.
So what's that phrase called?
Barren.
I thought you were talking about the point that they reach a certain age and they go through premenopause or menopause.
Yeah, it's called menopause.
Okay. So you're saying those have lesser value in the in your equation.
I'd assume so.
Then wait, so I'm saying you killed it.
Even like a young dad. Yeah, I think they have lesser value than like a young dad.
Wait. I think you're arguing an opposite point because so you're saying keep the man as opposed to the potentially fertile woman.
No. Unfertile.
Okay.
So like let's say young let's this is scenario. Old lady and then a man, single dad with the kids. Send the single dad with the kids rather than the old lady with the kids. Even though she's a woman. Because one, it's going to be hard to find, somebody to take care of 2 orphan kids.
So you're saying the equation isn't as clean. You're saying
Yeah.
you would add more, the fancy nuance to the equation.
Yes.
Okay. Beyond
But beyond that. Okay, yeah.
beyond the nuance, for me it's always the stronger of the two takes the sacrifice. And it's just again, it goes all the way, whatever, on the Christian side of it, it's Jesus took the sacrifice for us, man takes the sacrifice for the wife takes the sacrifice for the child. So all the way down the line. But it's interesting when somebody doesn't understand the idea of when it's appropriate to be willing to sacrifice oneself in the name of another. For me, and masculine men who understand this, it's an easy, to me, and even in conversation, it's an easy concept to grasp that I'm going to be willing to sacrifice myself for a woman or a child. But then when it comes to this idea of pro-choice, it's like, no, I'm not willing to sacrifice for the child, which I'd go. And so that's where I would go. All of the advice that I would give virtually in every circumstance would be to have the baby and keep the child. Keep the child doesn't have the child. If they choose to
Adopt out.
then go that route.
That makes sense. Dun dun dun.
That's it. But it was just the idea of understanding sacrifice. And if you don't understand sacrifice, almost wouldn't expect you to understand the idea of
it is so
it's
hard,
painted,
especially in our generation.
It's painted as the worst case scenario that a woman could possibly die for the child. I'm like, what? Like, men going to war, we do that all the time. Like, willing to sacrifice for the person we love. Now, again, when people talk about the rape, incest, and all these situations, but child is like half of this monster, then it's like, again, problematic. But again, it's like, between the two, it's sacrificing for this being. And again, I'm okay if anybody came to me for advice, I'm always going to side with the child. So, any thoughts there? Or would you like to go to your question?
We can go to my question.
All right. Bring it.
Okay. So, I don't know if we've ever even really gone over this, but I did want to bring it up just so that it can be clearly covered. If Corzin were to ask you, was I planned? How did you become a father? Was it something that you planned out? Was it something that you... Just because I don't think we've ever clearly talked about.
So then you don't know this either?
No, I know this.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
So I know this. And it's mostly like... Yeah.
Yeah. So
What led up to this decision?
Good question. So what would I say here? One, your mom, Corzin, your mom and I were married for 10 years, going on 11. And we kind of always saw ourselves as the couple who probably wouldn't have kids. Didn't have kids, didn't have pets. his mom, your mom, Corzin, has different health challenges. So we thought, you know what, like we don't want to put an extra burden on her on top of, everything that she deals with from a health perspective. And then also there's this idea of like, this happened to a couple of friends of ours where one of them wanted a kid. And it's not like rare, but one of them wanted a kid, one of them didn't. And then they had the kid and there was a bitterness or resentment there. And it's like this idea of bringing a kid into the world that one of the parents doesn't want. It's always like, it was there for me, it created dissonance of like, ooh, like that's kind of tough. Like it's tough to imagine putting a kid in a situation where the parent didn't want. Anyway, I figured, we would stay surrendered to God about it all. Anyway, what came about is I was in the delivery room for Amy's baby. And I think when I began telling the story of me being in the delivery room in front of my wife, she would hear me quote Amy saying something to the effect of, "Oh, this might be the only time you get a chance to be in the delivery room." And then so me saying that, I think what it did, it struck a chord with my wife. And I think we were going to California in August, and I think we were.
Khalil was born in June.
Khalil was born in June of 2023. We went to August or September, we went to California to be with her brother and her sister-in-law, her nieces, and nephew. And then so we were there, and then the topic came up about kids even when we were with them. And then I think her sister-in-law Giselle actually said, like, it really just spoke life and gave encouragement to like, look, there's some insecurity I think that my wife had expressed about like wanting to be a great mom, but then like health challenges kind of holding her back. She wouldn't want to be like a lesser mom because of health challenges. But I think the life and encouragement that her sister-in-law gave her was like it's often like your best is good enough, and then you kind of depend on your support system and people around you, and then you kind of do what you can with what you have. You do your best, and that's okay, and that's enough. And I think that spoke life into her time with her nieces, especially. I think really built her up and gave her that vision. And then they have some similar features with one another. We came back and we were both kind of thinking, oh, I think God wants us to have a kid. So then we began planning doctor's appointments to check everything out. Everything was good. And then I suppose it was, 12 months later, Corzin's here.
Woohoo! Yeah. So he was planned.
He
wasn't an accident.
Very planned. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That is something that comes up in social interactions, which is kind of funny.
It's funny.
People are like, "Were you trying?" And it's like, "Where do you want this question to go?" What if it was? What if they weren't?
Yeah. That's what I think. Because people ask, especially like as a young mom, people ask me all the time, like, "Did you mean to get pregnant?" Or like the other day, somebody asked me like this, like, "Ooh, how did your parents react when you told them that you were pregnant?" I said, "I was married already." I said, "They said congratulations and gave me a hug." Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
I wanted my son,
Yeah.
So I think it's super funny, like being my age and people are like, "Oh, accidentally got pregnant." Like, no, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is hard, like when you're making decisions like on how things are going to affect your life too. Like even with a planned child, like you don't think about like your work dynamic, or maybe you do. Like that's what I'm also wondering too. Like because I already knew that Corzin was planned, right? So, but like, how have you thought about how this is gonna affect your livelihood dynamic, like your work and stuff like that, especially between like you and Angelita?
Yeah, I think inside of that, I think it does change everything, because as I mentioned previously, this idea that I compare all of my accomplishments to being a dad. My dad is so far above and beyond, better, supreme. And that makes me happy, because I think it makes me happy that there's so much fulfillment in being a dad, because I think it's encouraging that people can be dads from every walk of life.
Yeah.
And it's not a privilege reserved for the rich. Although some people say, hey, it's harder if you're poor and have kids. Sure. But you can still have them. And that makes me happy that even poor people are clearly still populating the planet. So, anyway, so if that's true, that being a dad, being there, being here for him has been the most beautiful, fulfilling, uplifting part of my life above any accomplishment or achievement thus far, then it's like, if that continues to be true, then it's like, there's nothing I can ever do then that's better than this or this time or the connection, being a dad, being a father, all of these things. So then the question is would she consider not working and like figuring something out like in a creative way? And I think that's on the table for sure. We go, all right, like, hey, would you like to stay home? Do I stay home? Hey, do we figure out a live-in nanny? Do we do some other kind of daycare situation? So I think all of those things are on the table for sure. And I don't think it's firmly decided yet, but I'm certainly open to a lot. And I do realize, like, again, we're in a unique position to have the resources we have. Again, the studio's here, the gym's here. Having a live-in nanny isn't completely crazy. Like, to be able to if I was going to go to a work appointment, but from here, or have a podcast, but from here, to hand him off to a nanny that was here also, like, isn't like, what? That's crazy. And it's like, no, that kind of could make sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What about you? Or I guess you want to respond, and then I could ask you about you.
No, and speaking to the whole nanny thing. So recently, I did I tell you that I have a nanny for Kalal now?
At Quero?
Yeah, at Quero.
Restaurants.
So I work 4 days over there. Well, I go over there 4 days, and I make sure that everything keeps going over there. So now I have a nanny who comes and watches Kalal like there at the restaurant, so that I can get some stuff done. And I think it's easier and more comforting to know that, like, it's one person specifically there, like, walking with you in your day-to-day life, like, doing, being able to be there to watch your child. So that's my response on that. But yeah, I definitely upvote that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for you, do you see that changing when your second son arrives?
Yeah, for sure. I want to spend more time with both my boys. So we will definitely, I'm going to take some time off and not work so that I can take care of the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, even just in general, like, how things have affected like mine and Jeremy's like lives in general. Like, obviously Jeremy had to stop going to school, and now that he's back in school and we have another baby coming, it's like all these things are putting us in a real like tight position for a while.
Yeah.
But it's a means to an end, and that's what we kind of constantly have to tell ourselves too. Like, even just making the sacrifices at the beginning of like, even just like, breastfeeding the baby. Breastfeeding Kalal like took a lot, and it was like a lot of me giving a lot more and stuff like that. And we've talked about that in the past, like on previous podcasts too. But it's made our dynamic, like, we have to plan now around that and those kinds of things. But I think we are incredibly blessed to even just, be in the position that we're in now.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I get a lot of help from my parents.
Yeah. Got you.
So.
Okay.
But
Got it.
Was Kalal planned? Yes. Did everything go as planned? It's kind of going. The plan is constantly going. Did I think, Kalal was going to be born and everything was going to be good in a year? Yes. And has it been a year and the plan is still maybe only halfway done? Yeah. Or,
Nice.
I think that you can set like parameters. I think I have like parameters of kind of where I want our lives to go, and we're just constantly like moving that way, but it's not like just a straight point A to point B. It's kind of like we're constantly moving that direction, but doing a bunch of other stuff on the way. And I think that's just, No matter what kind of plan you have, that's how it's going to be. I didn't want to have another one right away. But I did accept that risk. I accepted the risk after
That delineation you made was funny. I was like, she didn't say Kai. Whoops. She didn't say her second son. And then,
Yeah. But yeah, so for Khalil, he definitely was planned. But yeah, for the second one, he's just kind of like, was he planned like as much as like I was really wanted Khalil? No, not as much. It was more like, oh, we're just gonna go with the flow, and hopefully he does come along so that Khalil. It was kind of like I really wanted him to have a sibling close in age, but at the same time, I was okay with not being pregnant.
Yeah.
So it was like, if he comes along, great. If he doesn't, it's okay.
Got it.
But yeah, so now here we are, and I definitely wanted them. I want them both. There wasn't ever at any point in time like a hesitation in my mind or in Jeremy's, It wasn't ever like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, it was like, oh, yay, we're going to figure it out, So, yeah.
Got it. All right. Question toward you is your son... Let's say Khalil.
A scenario.
Your son wants to get into streaming. At what age would you allow him to be live on camera?
16.
16? Okay. 16.
Yeah, anytime before. Even then, like, that's still young. I just feel like, oh my gosh, no.
And then... Is that the same thought as far as him? So you post him online?
Yeah. But, like, not a whole lot. But yeah, I do.
Interesting. Yeah. So it would be 16. So even if he was like, let's say he's a negotiator, he's like, okay, like what precautions, he's like going to you, what precautions can we take so that I can do it before then because I want to do it? And Mom, you've always said, if I want to do it, if it's what makes me happy, it's what I want to do, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, what you want to do when you're not stupid. Yeah. But no, you're right. No, I don't know. Parameters would have to be like, no cursing, no talking about your family, no being mean to other people, no.
Do you think you could ever get to a point where you're like, okay, as long as I'm in the stream?
Yeah. I would tell him that.
Hmm.
As long as I can sit there.
So could you see yourself, have you ever seen the Instagram moms who like they pretty much like raise their kids, like trying on different products and doing different things? Do you see yourself doing that?
No, because I'm not consistent like that. And I hate cleaning. So I guess that exposes me, right? So I hate cleaning. Like, I'm not a cleaner person. I'm not keeps my house pristine and clean, and I'm not aesthetic, I'm just me. So I don't think that I'm real like that. So I just don't think I could consistently have to keep up with that and having to constantly make content and do those kinds of things.
Okay, someone reached out to you and said, your boys are adorable. And they said, I can run it with your oversight. Clean one part of your house and like one corner to be like whatever the candid looking, but actually really put together photogenic area to get your sons in. So they would still get the same exposure. You just wouldn't be the one.
If somebody's going out of their way and doing all this, I would definitely have my reservations. I would be like, why are you so interested in my kids, you pedo?
No, let's say that they're good-hearted. It's just a matter. I'm more gauging your willingness to have them be part of helping you to make a living.
No, probably not. I probably wouldn't be okay with that. I still wouldn't be okay with it.
Yeah,
no matter what. Just because it's too much. I mean, once they're old enough, they can do whatever they want. you know, you're old and out of my house. That's up to you. You want to go be a model, do what you want. But that's just, I'm just not okay with that.
Okay, so I was listening to this podcast the other day, and one of the guys, you know who Dax Shepard is?
No.
You know who Kristen Bell is?
Yeah.
Married to her.
Oh, that's a girl's name? Dax Shepard?
Wait, rewind. Kristen Bell?
Oh, I thought you said Christian. Christian.
She has a joke about that too, actually. No? So
Yeah, no, I have no idea who she is then.
Either way, he was telling a story.
Christian Bale. I was like, yeah,
he
Batman.
He was telling a story about falling in love, but with his friends, not like in a sexual way at all or an intimate way at all, but more so like he was trying to use language indicative of how he bonded with different men. Like, again, in a completely, again, platonic, nothing like weirdly sexual, nothing like that. But nothing romantic, just like, but interesting phrase, because it made me think, would I use a phrase like that about anything? Example, would I use a phrase that I am in love with my son? Sounds weird, but then it's like, but does it capture the actual experience that I'm having right now? Because, so if you think about, it's known the euphoric experience you have with your significant other for a short time window, whether it's 6 months or 18 months, it's a short time window when it's like obsessive, you're thinking about them all the time, like the feelings you get just seeing them, just like this with eye contact, like all of these things, and I go, oh, I can see how in love as a phrase makes sense in a non-weird way. Like,
yeah.
But is there other language that you would give? Because it seems not enough to say
Obsessed.
Obsessed sounds, I guess it's weird how we kind of connect different things, like the association that nobody gives but maybe ourselves, but I almost think stalker.
Yeah.
And maybe there's overlap for sure, but I guess what I'm saying is, what are your thoughts about this in love? Do you just reserve that for, hey, romantic partner? Like, could you understand the idea of somebody saying they're in love with their
I can
child?
understand it. Would I do it personally? No.
What
But,
language would you try to use to explain it then?
like, have you ever heard people talk about, like, twin flames or, like, twin souls or soul sisters or whatever like that? People try, like, stuff like that. But me,
So, what language would you use for you and your son?
that he's my bestie. That I just love him.
But you also love your parents. But don't you think it's different?
It definitely is different.
So then,
And I am obsessed with him.
yeah. So then, when it's different, to me, I always think I need other language. And then, what's closest to that type of experience? And I was going,
I want to hug you to death. Is a closest thing I can think. Not like smothered, but like you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have dissonance when it comes to the idea of being in love with anybody other than your romantic partner.
Yeah, definitely. Because I don't know. I don't think I ever have, and I don't think I ever will in my whole life ever love anybody the way that I love my husband. Ever. So, I love Kalal. Don't get me wrong.
You don't think of it as more?
Like I love Jeremy more and Kalal more? Or do I love Kalal more?
Yeah.
No, I think it's different. I think it's a different love. I think I absolutely love Kalal a lot, but I'm not in love with him. Yeah. I guess because when I think in love, I think like you're in love together, like you're become one person. I guess it's like I constantly associate like in love with marriage and your partner and stuff like that. So that's where my brain automatically goes. And maybe that's just because that's where I'm assigning in, the words in love to be. So for me personally, I wouldn't ever be able to use that. But and it is different love. Like I said, like I will never love anybody the way that I love my husband. So like, and not to say that you never know what could happen, right? But I just know that the way that I love Jeremy, I would never love somebody else that way. And the way
So
that
Jeremy's
I
on
love
his deathbed and he's giving you his final wishes. He's like, I want you to find a good man for my son. And then so you feel like it's impossible for it to be
not the way that I love Jeremy. Definitely
the
not.
way.
Not
Interesting
like
qualification.
Yeah. Not yeah. It will never ever ever be the same.
So in This Is Us, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it,
Yeah.
but there was an uproar in the final episode or episodes
Oh,
maybe that's
yeah.
two, about Miguel not getting enough love, but then her ultimately landing back with Jack, even though Miguel was there, maybe even mathematically longer
Yeah.
than Jack. And so you would be on the side of course, Jack's at the end, and Jack's
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at least that's just with me. But yeah, like the love that I have for Kalel is just completely different. Like it's like, and I would say apples and oranges, but like it's two completely different things. But like, so I can't associate the same words. But can I say I love Jeremy very much and I love Kalel very much? Yes. I think even just as much as I love Jeremy, I love Kalel with all the love that I have for Jeremy. And on top of that, the love for Kalel. So it's like, yeah, more because it's not only me loving Kalel, but getting to love Kalel with the love of my life, And then seeing him inside of Kalel and seeing like us together and like, but I can't say in love. I can't say like I'm in love.
What about I'm in love with our family?
I guess so. Yeah,
So
I can be in love with ideas. I feel like that.
okay, name an idea you've been in love with.
Yeah, like the idea of our family.
Oh,
I can say that too. Like I'm in love.
that's not an idea. Well, I guess it could be an
I'm in love
idea.
with the
And
idea of our family.
okay,
With the idea of our family, I'm in love with this.
got it. Was that my question to you? We were so deep
Yeah.
down that one.
Yeah, we way down the rabbit hole.
Okay, so it said streaming, did love. Okay, streaming, I guess you kind of hit all of that. All right.
Definitely no streaming.
I wrestle what I would do there. I'm not as person-centered as you in the sense of like, oh, it's whatever he wants. But then it's funny. It's funny how there's exceptions to the ideas. I'm less about like, oh, whatever he wants. At least in different settings. Again, it's like choosing between sports. It's like, yeah, you can choose whichever sport you want. But let's go to your question.
My question: what kind of sibling were you?
I'd say, ooh.
The best kind. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Different time
For me.
periods. I think.
Now let's talk about growing up, living in the house. When you lived with your siblings, what kind of sibling were you?
Yeah, I think that's where I was going. I think I was going like a whole lifespan. So, have you ever seen the video that we have at the Canyon Lake of
You, Diamond, and playing in the water?
Dan, but also me with Jetty in the crib, in like the crib kind of thing?
No.
Oh, but like there's like this tenderness that I had for him, and I was saying what he wanted, and again I was like kissing him on the cheek and all these things. Like, dang, look at that, and like sweet little kid. You know, right? But I think for the most part, no, I think it was like, I think mean, bully, stingy, greedy. I think playing together, I think was maybe I think quality time. I think would say quantity and quantity with Jetty specifically, because we We're both athletes. We both played video games. We both loved basketball. We both loved wrestling. We both had toys. We both like, had our beds in the same room. We had all these things that were like, oh yeah, like you are together. You know, watching movies, watching shows. I would say, I wonder again if we ever have more than one child, like how that shifts and how I want to prepare the children to be with one another. And like, I'm sure some people tried. I mean, mom tried to share things about how to be with your brother, and I probably just didn't take the lessons well. But compared to him, for sure, like he was like this, such kind and generous and giving and compassionate and considerate. I think I would say any of those traits that I have now are certainly not natural, and they're more like, okay, you had to go grab those tools. You had to go find those tools, refine those tools. But no, absolutely growing up, I think it's embarrassing actually. Quite embarrassing. Again, there's like, why would I go to his games and hope that he would lose? Like, why was that in my heart? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you certainly, like, I look back and I go,
I was evil.
I was evil, and you see like that total depravity of like, did anybody teach me, hey, be evil? No. But it's like this crooked, broken vessel that I would go and hope that he wouldn't win, which is like a twisted, weird thing.
What would you do if you saw those traits in Corzin?
Yeah, I think I'm more aware of like the presence of evil. Again, like even when he's hungry, there's an anger and I would say a violence I see in him. I'm like, wow, like this young, like week old, and it's like the flailing of the arms and the and it's like I call it shark mode, and it's like wow, like you could see this early. You know, nobody had to teach him to be that vicious and intense and maybe angry and rageful. Like this is like pure nature. He came in like with the potential for violence.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like, and he doesn't have a lot of strength, so it's not like he could do a whole lot. But like when he like does a flail, you know, it's you could say, oh, if he was a lot stronger, a lot bigger, like that flail can hurt somebody. It could hurt me, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the goal would be to try to help him overcome it. Like, and naturally, I believe Jesus sets us free from being slaves to our sin. We can choose to get back into the chains and get chained up. And I feel like I've certainly gone back into different chains along the way. I feel like there was a time period where I was so like active in my faith, where it was like I'm so occupied doing good things that I don't have time to do any stupid things. And then there's times when I've gone back and I haven't been as active, and I feel like I just put chains back on, as far as like whatever I would even call it, the version of reverting back to certain ways. But I think there is helping him to understand like his own weakness, and that we need Jesus. I think probably one of my favorite things that I've quoted quite often is, Jesus did not come for the healthy, but for the sick. He did not come for the righteous, but the sinner. And I've gotten that equation wrong when I've said, and I thought like, oh yeah, like I became a Christian, so I moved onto the other side of that equation. I became healthy, or I became righteous, which part of that might be true, but it's like, I don't think that's the point he was getting at. I think he was saying like, we actually stay on that. I think we stay on that side of the equation is I'm always going to be sick. And that's okay because he came for me. I don't ever get to the point where, oh yeah, he didn't come for me. He didn't come for this version of me. So I'd want him to know, like, even in if he's greedy, if he's rude, if he's harsh, like, that's the lostness we have in like our desperate need for him. Like, yeah, we're not good enough. We can't be.
Mm-hmm.
And there might have been seasons of my life where I didn't have the time to do evil or think evil or speak evil. I was just kind of like going. But that's the reason we have a Savior. So try to help him to use his shortcomings to understand how to like resolve conflict. That's what it does. It hurts relationships. It hurts your relationship with God. It hurts your relationship with other people. So teaching him the skills of, hey, you know, the 5 languages of apology I've talked about before, which is, hey, how do you go to somebody and apologize. Which even with T-ball, I remember there was times where I was like, "What do you do when one of the kids pushes the other kid down on the other team and they got him out?" And it's like, "Oh, I found myself going like, oh, like this could totally be let go, but I'm gonna be the coach to say, hey, our teammate, go check on him and say, hey, are you okay? And I'm sorry you fell, and like whatever, give him a high five or fist bump. But not that they even know what like relationship resolution is, but I feel like that's the stuff that I want to be doing with my son. Like, hey, like I'm gonna help you understand how to resolve conflicts because any traits that you have that are similar to me, when you're harsh, it's bad for your friendships. When you're rude, bad for your, when you lie, it's bad for your, when you're deceitful, it's bad for your friendships. When you're greedy, it's bad for your friendships. But if you can understand, you have a lean toward that way and still go the other way. That's like where I think the power and like the divine power comes in.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
No, I think let my brain catch up for a minute. Okay, so that whole thing, yeah, like I think the only like thinking about it, I guess it's because now that I'm having my second one, I'm thinking like, oh, I wonder like how their relationship is gonna look in 10, 15 years, 10, 15, 20 years, and are they gonna think like, oh, I wonder if my mom was nice to her siblings. I guess it's because recently I was talking with mom's sisters. I think that, mom's sister, Diana, that lives in Houston, came down and for something, maybe a baby shower or something, right? So she was there with Aunt Genevieve, who I see all the time. And, they were talking about the kind of sibling that mom was. And they were like, oh, yeah, she's exactly the same as she is now. That's exactly how she was as like a sibling. And I had felt like, man, I had never wondered, and then on top of that, I was talking to grandma yesterday and grandma was telling me, oh, your mom, like, she was always singing like to all her siblings, like, cause she's the oldest, the oldest girl. And she said, oh, she would always have them all. She would be singing like Little Rabbit Foo Foo in the car so that all of them would be entertained and distracted. She's like, she's always been that person. Cause I was telling her that I get concerned sometimes with mom and like being alone with Kalel because I feel like she doesn't pay attention a whole bunch. But I do feel like she is the most playful type of person that like out of a lot of people that I've ever met. She's the most willing to be silly, willing to make a fool out of herself to make the baby happy, like so. And it's crazy to think that I see her doing those things now, like this morning even, or even like, every single day I see how much she like over exaggerates and overly like sings songs and does all these things for Kalel. And she's been doing that for, 60 years because she's been doing it as long as she's been an older sister. And I was like, man, so she's not only been that kind of mom, but she was that kind of sibling. Yeah. She was the kind of sibling who played with her younger sibling. She was the kind of sibling who took them to do fun activities and, did all those kinds of things. And I was wondering, like, I wonder if Kalel's going to grow up and be like, oh, I wonder if my mom was as attentive and, paid attention and did all these things, with her siblings as she's doing with my grandkids, and stuff like that. Or if it's the way that is, like, is that how it's going to be with my kids, or with his siblings, like, are my kids going to wonder how I was with my siblings? Is Kalel going to be more protective, more like this? And then his kids are going to be like, oh, super protective. They're going to be like, my dad's such a Papa Bear, so protective. And then they're going to think like, I wonder if he was like that with, his little brother and, all these things. But yeah, so that's where my brain was. And I wanted to I don't know really if I have very much sibling rapport because I don't feel like I spent that much time with my siblings. I do feel like I was pretty bratty. But growing up, at least. But I spend more time with my siblings now, and I do things more with my siblings now.
Yeah. I think it's so crazy. I think it's so crazy. I could get emotional about like the shame combined with the redemption, which is like, I think sometimes I could just want like the redemption. Oh yeah, I'm like, hey, I'm changed now, but
Yeah.
but it's like the redemption shows like shows the work of God in my life. I think. Yeah, I think I look back sometimes. And I think the shame is like, I wish I would have been the brother who would like be teaching my siblings stuff, And I
Yeah.
think there's part of me that was, but that's still after the redemption. But like even like when I was learning basketball or games or like, or like just to my little brother to Jetty. If I would have been like, hey, like you're in school. If anybody messes with you, hey, I got your back. So you know what I'm saying? Like just like the small thing of if anything happens to you, I'm gonna be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like to never have given that speech is like, I think it's embarrassing and there's shame about it now. But I think it's and the redemption of how I could think about it now and I can feel about it now and going like, oh, I really want to help other big siblings understand that about their younger sibling, like to reassure them and build them up.
Yeah.
And like almost you give like messages on both sides.
Yeah.
Both sides of it. Oh, hey, like this, hey, let's say we have another kid and I'm talking to him and it's his younger brother's first day of school. It's like, hey, like y'all can be going to the same school, whatever. Hey, so he's whatever. He's getting his shoes. He's moving his clothes and he's organizing it right now. Go let him know that you got his back. If anybody tries to bully him or whatever, that remind him he has a big brother that's gonna look out for him. Like, and even if if Corzin doesn't know that on his own, he's doing something that he's being told to, even if he doesn't mean it or whatever. Like,
yeah.
But like you're trying to plant seeds of like the protector that I didn't know to be. But it's pretty. I guess it's pretty precious that you could help somebody to be
Better than you
better
are.
than you. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So it's exciting. But I do think, and I guess another thing for me to think about too is like, considering that if you think about like the cluster of like me, Pops, Christian, and Shanice, all of us are around the same age too. Like I feel like the way that I acted with them was also closer to like a sibling kind of thing than like an aunt and niece kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think I think a lot of times I didn't act very nicely either. I was very much evil.
Yeah.
I think it's taken me a while also just to, growing and becoming better and doing better things I feel like I've always had so much love for them. But yeah, even just that. Like I do remember like if anytime they had problems with anything, like it would make me upset and I'd get, mad, or even with like my brother, like being more distant with like, Pops that's closest to me in age.
Yeah.
Out of our siblings, like, one, not concerning myself even with him, like, just like, oh, he doesn't exist to me. And I felt like I spent years acting like he just didn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's like, now to be at the point where I have so much love for my siblings, like I'm happy about that too.
Come on, redemption.
Yeah.
And what was I gonna say? No, I love your self-awareness about it too, and I think it's special for you to understand. There's that evil side, and then that's not the closing chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And which I was having a conversation with a friend this past week, and we were discussing this idea that for some reason Christians, and this is to include myself. This is not me saying, "Oh, look at them." No, this is me. As we can get saved, and then when we're trying to help other people, like the message, whether it's explicit or it's subverted, is I'm kind of like, oh, like I'm so much better than you. So like, don't you want to be as good as I am? But it's like that. I think it misses there's so many things wrong with that. And I was telling him, I said, what's kind of funny, which was the time periods when I like let go of that. And I said, hey, I just want to tell you all the things. When I let go of that and I start talking to other people, like, can I be as honest about the bad parts of not just old me before Jesus, but like, can I be honest about all of my shortcomings with Jesus, with you? And I still want you to know him, but I just want you to know how imperfect I am. So like, I don't want you to go, hey, I want to be a strong Christian like Derek. I want you to follow Jesus, but I'm struggling too, you know? And then that I was telling him when I took that approach, like that was some of the most effective time as far as bringing friends. But it's such a hard approach to, if you think that you have to be superhuman and then you try to like portray that, oh, look at all these good things that I do. Hey, I go to prison to volunteer, and I serve the homeless on Saturdays once a month, and I go to church on Wednesdays.
We've
and
heard for the now
Sundays.
sixth time on the pod.
It's like, yeah.
But I completely understand what you're saying. But I think it's a balance, because you're not going to take, homeless drunk on the corner preaching about Jesus seriously when you're like, come on, man, what has Jesus really done for you?
Yeah.
You're not going to take that seriously. So I do feel like it is a balance between like kind of doing good and at the same time like being humble.
Yeah.
So because you want people to be like, oh, I aspire to be the kind of Christian that so and so is,
Yeah.
And that's that. I'm not into everything, crazy either. But like, I think that's where my brain would go as far as that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
I don't go to prisons and volunteer
You
once
did,
a
though.
month.
You did,
I
though.
have. I have in the past. But I don't actively do those things.
I don't either. That's what I'm saying. Like,
But yeah, so
anyway, all right. Let's do our closing parable or closing story. I'll
turn.
go first. And so, what I want to say is, if the story is like, if you think about this, the shirt you're wearing right now, and I'm talking to my son. Like, if you think about the sun, the shirt you're wearing right now, maybe even the socks and shoes, and maybe even the pants you're wearing right now, like, depending on when you watch this episode, like somebody gave you that, like, and I don't know how old you're gonna be by the time you're actually like buying your own clothes and doing your own thing. But I think what I want you to know is there's so many people that have loved you and have the diapers you're wearing right now. So you're like about to be 6 weeks old. The diapers you're wearing right now, somebody bought for you. And I'm talking about outside of your mom and dad. Of course we did. But like, you have my grandparents, your great grandparents, which, I'd love for them to be around for you to be able to meet them one day. But if they're not, like, the diapers, the wipes that we're wiping your behind with, like, somebody bought those for you. The crib that you go to sleep in now at night, like, your aunt and uncle bought that for you. And so the reason I'm pointing all this out is because most of the people that have done these good things for you, they're probably not going to go out of their way to tell you, because they have like a humble attitude and disposition about it. They're not going to go out of the way to tell you and show you on what they did for you. But if you can be gracious and uplifting to them and like have a spirit of gratitude toward every person you come across, especially your family, especially your friends, especially people, from the church your mom and I are connected with Mission Point Christian Church. There's so many people that were taking care of you that maybe you don't even know yet. You certainly don't know yet as a baby, but depending on how old you are. There's so many. If you can grasp this idea that the shirt you're wearing, the socks, the shoes, or even the diapers you're wearing now, so many people have loved you, cared for you, provided for you, given to you. I hope you grasp from this one lesson is gratitude for all the people who have helped you. And so whenever you see any of your aunts, whenever you see any of your dad's friends or your mom's friends, whenever you see your grandparents or great grandparents, like, find a way to say thank you inside those conversations, because they've probably done things for you and loved you in ways that you don't even understand and realize. So I think that's the parable. So maybe call it the parable of the shirt you're wearing. Your turn.
Great. So, I think I'm just going to do another little story. So, back to the whole siblings thing. So, there once was 2 boys. And one of them was super happy and super grateful all the time. And the other one was always a little cynical. So, parents decided that we're going to take these boys and we are going to take all the good things away from, because, they're trying to figure out why is one happy and the other one's not happy. So they decide to take the boy who is always unhappy, and they went and they bought him every gift he could possibly want. All the newest iPads and the newest toys and the newest shoes and everything. And they put it in a room, and they went and they showed it to him. And when he saw everything, he started crying and getting upset. And he started saying that he now has so many nice things that he's going to ruin them, that he's not going to be able to have enough time to play with all of them, and that he's just going to wear the shoes and get them dirty, and he's going to drop things and they're going to break, and then there's going to be more things for people to be, for him to mess up on, because now he has so many great things to mess up. And that's the way that he looked at everything. And then the other boy, they decided to take away all his good things, and they said, well, we're going to give him a really bad gift. So they went and they got a bunch of horse manure, and they filled the room with horse manure. And they took the boy over there into the room, and they said this was his gift, and it was a bunch of horse manure. And he goes over there and he starts grabbing it and throwing it in the air and going, yippee, yippee, with all this poop around here, there has to be a pony somewhere nearby. So that's how he decided to look at things. So both things, obviously, no matter what you're given, no matter what happens, you are the person who determines how you take things, whether things turn out good for you, whether things turn out bad for you. It doesn't take away from you to have a good attitude. It doesn't remove anything from your life to have a good attitude. When you have a bad attitude, though, that sucks the joy out of so many things, not only for you, but the people around you. And when you're in a bad mood, like, even the best things can seem horrible to you. But all you have to do is change your perspective, try to wash the bad attitude off your face and let it roll down the drain, and let yourself enjoy things that even you can see, the silver lining in even the worst of situations. So that's it.
All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.